This is Sawyer, and you were watching Finding Ithaca. And this is a great story, and make sure to subscribe. You're gonna love it.
There once was a weeping house. The dog wept in the yard. The master wept in the study. Upstairs, a young man sat at the edge of his bed and wept. Day after day, he sat, his right hand curled into a fist. He wept because he had forgotten everything. He wept for some awful misfortune he could no longer remember. One evening, a young lass walked up the drive. Her clothes were no more than tatty rags. The dog paid her no heed. He lay whining in his muddy puddle. The girl knocked at the door. A sobbing servant fetched her in to see the master. He looked up from his weeping, dabbing his eyes with a handkerchief. She said, "I've heard of you from the people of the village. I've heard tell if any woman can make you smile, then she could have you. I will try, and if I fail, I don't know what I'll do." The master looked her up and down and said, "Many women have come in here. Fine women, ladies who wanted nothing except a fine husband. They've tried everything. Singing, tickling, taking into the sunshine, everything. All of them tried and failed. I wish you luck. Listen to me now as I tell you a tale to pass the evening. Perhaps it'll stop one little tear."
Just take my hand.
Once, not so long ago, I dreamt that I should search until I found the leaves that hung but never grew. My mother warned me to be careful, always careful. The world is not as it seems. I walked one evening. And then I came to a strange house. Behind the house there was a hill. On the hill there was a tree, and the tree was silhouetted against the sky. The tree had 7 branches. Each branch had a twig, and each twig had a leaf. Outside the house I saw an old woman. "Hello, my dear," she said. "Are you hungry?" I was. So I went in. It was a strange place. Half of it was like any other home, except that in the corner there was an enormous black boar. She put a kettle on the fire. "I'll bet you're just exhausted. Sit down, please." I sat and I ate and drank. I told the old woman that I had nothing. "I'll give you whatever I can spare if you can sweep the floor and keep the fire and feed the boar each night by fattening him up for the slaughter next month." I thanked her and was happy to stay. The days turned into weeks. Every day I swept the floor, I fed the boar, and kept the fire alight. The old woman gave me plenty of food and drink, and she insisted that I clean my plate. For the first time, there was flesh on my bones. Each evening, I would stay at the strange tree, until one day, while the old woman was inside, I fed the boar, and I said months have gone by, and I don't know if I'm any closer to finding the leaves that hung but never grew. What should I do? The boar lifted its head and answered, "Finally, you've spoken to me. I had lost hope that you would ever do so. The leaves on the tree are the leaves you seek. I was searching for them too. As a young man, I came here and I asked if I could have the leaves. She is a witch. She smelled me into a boar. Next month, when I'm nice and fat, they'll eat me. And guess who they'll smell next? You'll be the boar in the corner unless you steal those leaves and flee this place at once." That night, I crept outside and stole the magic leaves. With the first magic leaf, I touched the boar, and there was a fine young man before me. With the second, I touched the locked door, and it opened, and we fled. The witch looked through her window. There were no leaves on her tree. The witch ran after us, swift as the wind. I took out the third leaf. "We must hide. You'll be the pond, and I will be the duck." When the witch came to the duck pond, she asked, "Little duck, have you seen the young woman pass this way?" But the duck dipped under the water. Finally, we reached a fork in the road. I could hear the witch approaching. I gave the young man the fourth leaf, and I kept the fifth. And I said, "You go that way, I'll go this way. Meet me here in a week. If you get home, don't let anyone kiss you, for if you are kissed, you'll forget me immediately." So I ran to the left and the young man to the right. I looked over my shoulder, and there was a spidery gray hand reaching for my hair. I threw the leaf to the ground. The witch saw it, tried to turn her foot, but it was too late. She trod on the leaf and was changed instantly into a sow. Meanwhile, the young man arrived at his home, and the dog lifted his head and sniffed the air and licked his face. In an instant, he forgot everything. A week later, I waited at the crossroads, and no one came. And then I went home to find that my mother had died. Afterwards, I couldn't bear to stay in that place, so I took to wandering. I slept in barns and under hedges and lived on berries and nuts. My clothes became tattered rags. And then I heard of a fine house where a young man had been struck down with a strange affliction. Once it had been a happy place. Now even the pigeons in the gutters wept. The master had proclaimed if any woman could make him smile, that she could have him. The young man stared in amazement. He smiled and opened his hand. There was a leaf.